I want to talk about psychological warfare. It seems like right now it's Iran's favorite way of attacking Israel, and it's working pretty good, but they're trying too hard in a way that makes it a little bit too obvious. And maybe this time the Israelis are gonna wake up and understand that the Iranians are playing with our minds. And I'm gonna show you how they do it. So if you ever met a Jew, an Israeli, you'd notice that the Israelis and the Jews in general have a very unique weakness. They are transparent AF, they're honest AF, they're just very, it is what it is kind of people. It's what you see is what you get. They're not very transactional in nature. They don't expect anything back usually, but they have principle and values. And this is where you can really drive Jews insane. Because our biggest weakness is the same weakness that we say brought the destruction of the Second Temple. Sinat Chinam. Sinat Chinam is a term in Judaism that it used to indicate hate for a different group or a person for their opinions. So in Israel, this is a real weak point, as well as in Judaism in general, because if you know Jews a little bit, if you read the texts, if you read the Talmud, you'd notice there is a strong pattern. Jews are very argumentative and passionate, and in the right evil hands you can take that passion and argumentation and turn it to a situation when you have two peoples that basically share the same core values and principles, but they argue so hard and a little bit of misunderstanding here and there, and they won't talk to each other again. And those kind of things that fracture the people and make them not understand each other is exactly where the Iranians strike when they want to fracture the Israeli society. They do it very subtly, they do it very smartly. They are just trying to create this narrative where you feel like the other side has those very evil or dangerous perceptions that the other side might not really have. But today they did something that a Jew wouldn't do, and it got people so upset and so emotional that the Shabak had to investigate who did that action, who did that, who sent that message, so that to know, because this is how emotional everybody got. So what happened was that one of the hostage families got a bouquet, a wreath, you know, when a bouquet is like in a circle, and it said in the note that we are sorry for your child, sorry for your loss, RIP. The country had decided to abandon your children and they're gonna die as hostages. Now, when you see something like that, you're like, and that family specifically is one that is a little bit more active politically. And they were starting those conspirations of what side sent it. Was it a prank from that side that tried to send this awful message to show that the country is being awful, or the other side trying to, you know, it's really played mind tricks on people's minds, and people were like starting shooting to each other, like what group, what people that hold a certain opinion, like which one of them would have someone that would do something like that, that would be so insensitive towards a family that has a hostage, a girl hostage in Gaza. And after some investigation, the Shabak came out, which is like the Israeli FBI, and said, listen, there is a high probability that was a bouquet that was sent by Iranian agents. And that really opened up the eyes of a lot of people, realizing that maybe a lot of those fights and those disagreements that we had were planted by fake actions of fake people that are not really any group of us. And that is the horrible weakness and this Achilles point that the Jews have, this argumentation and that passion and those values and the importance of those values, that if somebody does something that is agreed upon by everyone, like not being empathetic, it's something that is intolerable to the society in such a level that, you know, it might be not as much as of a weak point to other people maybe in the West, but for us, for Israelis, disrespecting the dead, disrespecting the hostage families, disrespecting some sort of heroes or people that going through a struggle, even if it's a medical struggle, making fun of people who are, for their family situation or their mental situation or things like that. Those are things that the Israelis really struggle with, real bad. By the way, in Gaza, every time they see an article that they don't like, then they call it psychological warfare, even if it's true. Or even if it's psychological warfare that is actually aimed at Israelis, but a side effect of it is something that the editors didn't expect, and then the Gazans also get mad about it, which is amazing. For example, I think one of the Arab channels, I think maybe Al Jazeera, I don't know, one of them, probably Al Jazeera, tried to show how evil the Israelis are in the north of Gaza to publish to the world. And then it got to the Gazans, and the Gazans are like, look how Al Jazeera are cooperating with the Zionists by making us believe that we cannot go back home in the north. Yes, we can, though this is nothing but a tactic to scare us from trying to go back home. Do not believe this article, which is amazing. It's like, wow. Like, like for us, we think that they make this article to show how cruel we are. And as what they think is that showing an article that shows how Israel is treating the Palestinians cruelly is actually a psychological warfare, a warfare against them to scare them out of fighting and trying to oppose the Israelis. So to them, the cruelty is actually good PR. So they don't understand why they would depict Israelis as being cruel, because that's a good PR for Israelis. That would mean that the Gazans would be too scared to fight back. So it's amazing how different societies have completely different psychologies, and one psychological game aimed at one society can backfire from another one. I think one of the most famous but maybe unknown cases of a psychological warfare that backfired for the Arabs is Deir Yassin. So the Arabs of Deir Yassin had decided to make up this, the journalists that came there make up the story of a unbearable cruelty that was done by the Israelis to the residents of Deir Yassin, while the residents of Deir Yassin are saying, what are you writing? Those are all lies. And the journalists like, no, we need to do that so there would be a global pressure against Israel, and that more Arabs would join the fight from other Arab countries once they'd seen what the Israelis are doing to our women and our kids and our men and everything like that. And what really happened is that this rumor spread like wildfire, and the Arabs were like, okay, if the Israelis are so cruel, we don't want to fight them, and they just scattered away. It literally, instead of bringing more Arabs to fight against the Jews, it made the Arabs that were already fighting the Jews run away. And those people who were actually, this is a big story, part of the Nakba, right? The famous Nakba. A lot of them left because of that story, which, well, and by the way, this is one of the biggest challenges of Israeli Hasbara, because the Hasbara, the West needs is exactly the opposite of the hasbara that the Arab world needs to hear. Because if they hear how humanitarian Israelis are, to them they're like, oh, stupid Israelis, let's go butcher them, right? This is how they think. But if the West thinks that we're cruel, then they would go crazy against us. Like, how can we allow this cruelty? It's a very sensitive game to play because we have 2 billion Arabs on one side that might slaughter us if we're too nice, and 2 billion Christians that worry about human life on the other side and that might slaughter us if we're too cruel. C'est la vie. I really want to hear about your stories you have of psychological warfare. Like, comment, subscribe. I have a Buy Me Coffee now. It really helps. And they take less percentage than YouTube. So I love you all. See ya. Thank you.